I want to talk about being a legally blind person who was extremely hesitant, fearful, and resistant to learning to use a white cane for mobility. I have retinitis pigmentosa, a fairly rare degenerative eye disease. For reference, this is a relatively normal looking retina. And some of these more severe ones are a lot closer to what my retina looks like. These are called bone spicules. They're basically like dead tree branches that spread around from the outside to the middle and eventually to the center. And that's doing damage to all the rods and cones that I need to see in low light, acuity, and with color as well. RP has affected me my entire life. I don't have any memories without it, though I was diagnosed when I was 7 or 8. What I didn't realize as a child was the fact that I didn't see the same as everyone else. It wasn't until I related my experience to others that I understood that my vision was very different, especially with friends as it was getting close to dusk and you're playing basketball or running around playing, and it's getting close to 8 or 9 o'clock in the summer, and they're still able to play and make passes and shoot hoops. And meanwhile, I'm like, I actually can't see where the hoop is anymore. There's definitely something up here. And so that was really the first indication that maybe things weren't quite normal. But around the same time that I was noticing that my low light vision was very poor, that I also noticed that there was something up with my peripheral vision. I would drop something on the ground, a G.I. Joe, a transformer, just any little toy, and I couldn't see it. It was a mystery, like it was in my hands, it's on the floor, it should be right here. Maybe it bounced, but how come I can't see it? I had to learn to drag my eyes over every square inch of real estate on the floor in order to find it. And then I quickly learned that if I backed up, I got to a distance from where I think I dropped the object, that I'd be able to see more of the space in the center that I actually had. And I described my vision before, like 10, as being more like a letterbox, not very much down or up, and maybe 20 degrees left and right. I had to come up with strategies in order to find things, because you drop things. When you're a kid, you got all kinds of little knickknacks and doodads, and if I'm just looking at a sea of carpet or a rug or even a wood floor, not everything is going to stand out from there. So I'd get down at ground level so I could see it from a different perspective. Use my hands and sweep in a pattern to kind of brute force my way into finding it. So I had to develop techniques and strategies as a young person to get through life, whether it was telling my friends what was up with my night vision so that when it would get later in the day, they would know why I'm going home before they're done playing. And maybe if I stayed a little bit late, it was great if their parents knew that this was a problem for me so that they could give me a ride home, or maybe send one of the kids to escort me back as the sun has gone down. And that worked out pretty well, being open about it when I was a kid. And I didn't have any of the hesitancy that would come later, especially into adolescence, for why you might not tell certain people, or keep your cards closer to your chest. Plus, I was dealing with anxiety, depression, irrespective of even my eyesight, I think, and obsessive compulsive disorder. And I withdrew into myself. I did not want to share what was happening with my family, with anyone at school, or my teachers. And for that, I really suffered. I was angry and ashamed and embarrassed, and I just didn't want to be me. I didn't want this set of circumstances at all. It felt like it wasn't fair, and I hated it. And sometimes I still do. It's not like I'm just magically better and I just love being blind, right? It still sucks. However, I did learn to accept it. Even though it feels like I go through all 5 stages of grief every time I have a new degradation in my vision, which happens every couple of years, every 5 years. Sometimes it feels like from 1 week to the next, it's different. And sometimes I'm rolling right back to square one again. Because of that, I have all these markers of falling flat on my face, sometimes quite literally, or into a wall, door jam, light poles, mailboxes, Other people, you name it. There's many markers of where I failed completely and had to pick myself back up again and try and figure it out once more. That path to self-improvement really only started after I moved out. I love my parents, but they could only understand so much about what I was going through, what I was able to see, what was happening inside my own mind and how I was not dealing with things very well. And honestly, I really needed therapy, especially when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. That's when it was at its roughest. According to Amazon, I ordered my first cane in 2006. And I didn't start using that very same cane until 2017. It stayed underneath my bed in the original packaging, all folded up for 11 years. It was one thing to feel like I could tell friends or maybe some new acquaintances what was happening with my vision. That started to become a little bit more easy as time went on, just because you're saying a lot of the words, you're talking about the rods and the cones and your night vision, et cetera, et cetera. But it was another to just think about someone being able to look at me holding the cane and what assumptions they would make about my vision. I invented reasons to resist using a white cane because of things I'm ashamed of now. But when I'd watch other folks who have low vision around the city or riding on the bus, I felt like they had some kind of superpower. They were skilled beyond what I innately have. And it was wrong of me to do that, wrong to assume that, because I didn't ask them what the stepping stone process was for them to get to that level of competency that I was witnessing. Like, I didn't even have the nerve to ask them if they were self-taught or if they went to a school, had instructors, or Commission for the Blind, which is in every state in the US, I believe. And also each Western country pretty much has a government agency or federation of their own that helps with assistive technology, training, materials, all kinds of things. You just have to look it up for where you live. Because the reality for my specific kind of blindness, was retinitis, is that I didn't think I was as blind as them. So I don't need to use a cane. Like, I'm thinking they must be completely blind, and that's why they have to use it. I still have some vision. Therefore, I can get away with not having to. And for the most part, I did get away with it. People didn't know that there was something wrong. Now, if they followed me for half a mile, which that'd be creepy, wouldn't it? Then they would probably notice that, oh, he slipped off a curb here, or he nearly hit that mailbox, or maybe he did hit that mailbox. I did that in high school in front of sort of a friend's house. We were kind of friendly, not just friends, but they're the cool kids. They played guitars and were in bands, and I wanted them to like me, but I didn't realize they were all there. And when I walked by their place, I ran squarely into a mailbox. I still, to this day, I look at that specific mailbox and all mailboxes with disdain of remembering that, because the next day they were like, "Hey, did we see you just like absolutely clobber, like just clatter into a mailbox?" And I was so upset that they noticed that I was like, "No, like I just lied. I didn't want to admit to it." So like, no, that didn't happen. No, that's somebody else. Like, oh, or maybe I almost hit it. Meanwhile, I hit that thing squarely. I mean, I like doubled over on top of it. God, there's a bunch of those examples where they're isolated. I hit my head against somebody else's on the corner of a street. Like, I was looking down, they weren't paying attention. Anytime you bonk heads together, if you've ever done that, it's extremely painful. And that person was so mad at me. They were not happy, obviously. And when I admitted to them while they're holding their head and being like, she was saying like, what's wrong with you? Why? What, didn't you see me? And I said, no, I actually have very poor eyesight. I can't see very well outside. And she goes, well, maybe you shouldn't go outside then. Which definitely stung. It ruined my day and my week, if not more. Or any awkwardness in busy places at fairgrounds, concerts, the mall, that I'm trying to pay attention to everything that I can, often looking down, looking at people's feet. But some oblique angles, you can't really account for where people are going to come out of nowhere. And to me, everything is out of nowhere. If I'm not looking at something directly, it almost doesn't exist. I've often explained it as I'm disappearing ink. I'm painting this picture, and the moment I put some ink down, it's gone, you know, and it's really tough in those busy places, and maybe there's not very good traffic flow. People are walking around all over the place, and you just miss things. You know, I shoulder check people, and when I don't know they're there, you're gonna hit them pretty hard, and they're gonna get pretty pissed off about it. Or there's kids that are small, and they just run out in front of you, and you give them a kick like that. That stuff mortified me. So many folks that I had accidentally tagged, and then they get mad, you know, and it makes sense, you know, when there's two-sided people, normally sighted people, almost always one of them will take a deviation from the other, right? Like, okay, two people looking at their phones, maybe they'll run into each other. But if one person's distracted and the other isn't, at some point when they get near, there's going to be a shift in the way that they're moving, and they'll avoid contact. And that's just not happening with me, because if they're expecting me to be the one that dodges, well, they're going to find out really quickly the folly of that. And again, they would always be mad. Almost always. It was rare that a person would say, "Oh, my bad, I didn't see." You know, just even to be polite. It was usually like it's usually them calling me names, or like assuming I was a jerk. What's wrong with you? Didn't you know? And that started to add up. I really had that stuff affect me. I was carrying it with me for a long time. Certainly, there were some near misses with automobiles too. I think I had a measure of the crossing area or the street, but maybe I was having a space cadet moment, distracted by my own thoughts, and I'd step out in the street thinking it was clear, and instantly hear the car horn or the brakes locking up, because I missed it entirely. It really shook me to know that there was a car-sized hole that I could miss. You know, I have really good hearing, and I like to be aware of my surroundings, but I wasn't always like that. Those moments where I nearly met my untimely demise had me ruminating really on those experiences when they went really bad, and I'd replay the events and think about, what am I going to do differently here? I need to be focusing on the here and the now. I can't worry about what someone said and all the other mess that's happening in my life. Is that I'm crossing the street. There are giant metal boxes moving at quite a pace, and all that matters is that I get through there safely. So there weren't any major moments that finally convinced me to use the cane. As a lot of smaller ones, and a lot more. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of these that I could recount for you if you want. One near the end in 2017 was I knocked over someone's bike that was tied up to a pole, and I fell onto it. I'm pretty sure I did damage. And I just felt so bad for the owner of the bike. They were gonna come back to it and be like, "What, you know, what happened? what jerk messed up my bike?" And I guess it's kind of funny that was the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess, and not the shins of the children I accidentally kicked at a state fair or something. But however it happens, it had to happen. Right after that bike moment, the very next day, I reached under my bed where that cane that had been sitting there for 11 years. Got the packaging off, unfolded it to where it was, and I decided I was going to take it with me. Maybe not everywhere at first, but at least to the store. Let's give it a try. And if you ever read, and I highly recommend this book, it's Andrew Leland's No Country for the Blind. We have very similar experiences in how we first employed it. It's kind of holding it out there, or just using it as like a regular walking cane, but not doing any kind of technique at all, just kind of holding it. And in fact, at first, I think I kept it folded up in my hand, not even unfurled. And let me tell you, nobody knew what that meant. It was I had to warm up to it for sure, but when it was just in my hand, I don't think anybody really thought twice that that maybe there's something going on. It's for all they knew, I was just holding it for somebody else or transporting it, not that I needed it. And if I wasn't going to actually, use it in all its glory and its majesty, and 4 or 5 feet long, that it would mean jack, just folded in my hands. Once I kept it unfolded, though, and it still as a regular walking stick, shall we say, people were starting to react. I still had moments where I bump into folks, but it stopped right away, and it was it was one of those revelations that just unlocked something in me. But they started saying sorry to me, and that never happened in the past. I mean, never happened. Whatever it is, and I don't know if it's in just American society or us as a people, that like when there's a physical accident, that person to person, I was always on the receiving end of their rage, unfortunately, and that flipped completely when I had the cane. In fact, I've never had someone get mad at me since I've used it. Never. I've 8 years of using it in my day-to-day life, and they might do that, like they bump into me and they'll start to get mad, and then they'll notice it, they'll see it, and they'll go, oh, I'm sorry. That happened to me just the other day even. I kind of chuckled to myself just for how much that changed in that span of time, where the majority of my life was feeling like, I don't want everyone to get upset with me. I got to watch where I'm going all the time, to, you know what? I can't see everything that I need to, and I need to get around no matter what. And if people are either ignorant of what the cane means, that's not my problem. If they're not paying attention and they run into me, that's not my problem. All of those things washed away. It changed the onus of responsibility for collisions and emotions and all of that, and it offloaded it from me. Obviously, I wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self, when I was a teenager, you should start using this cane. It's going to be different. But I was in a different place. My brain was in a different place. I lived in a different time. I don't know what folks would have been like back then. When I was in high school, didn't want to stand out sometimes. At least I didn't. Kind of went along with the crowd. I didn't try to look too differently, make attention for myself, give some impression that I'm different. Because when I would see people that were different, and they would get picked on, they get made fun of, and I was already bullied a bit in school by people, and I didn't want to draw even more of that kind of energy towards myself. So it's one of those things, like I could feel like I have a regret, but I was living the life that the best life that I thought I could, and I didn't realize how it could have been better, maybe. But it's kind of all water under the bridge now. The best I can do is try to advocate for how it worked in my life, and not have it be something I'm telling you to do or what you should do. It is up to everyone to determine for their level of disability and comfort and all those other factors of when it's right for them. And when I think about it, the whole thing, that was the right time to do it. I was the most comfortable in my own skin and could appreciate how everything was about to change. I can give you some of my personal preferences, but honestly, if you have a Commission for the Blind or something equivalent to wherever you live, I really think it'd be good to maybe talk to them, because they can help offset the funds. Certainly here in the US, very aware of the fact that people who are legally blind often don't have gainful employment, and it's just difficult to know where to start. So they're a great resource for having some canes on hand, or being able to order some, or perhaps people that can give some instructions. But definitely look into things on YouTube for all kinds of content creators that show blind lifestyle kind of stuff, like Molly Burke. I give you an indication of just how she gets through life and explains all the various tools and resources that she's had to be able to show that how she goes about her life. But for me, I use the pencil technique. There's the two major ones I know of. There's pencil and golf grip. Pencil one just makes more sense for, I don't know, just how I went to school and the ease of which I move my hand. I mean, various people, if you got some kind of arthritis or other dexterity things going on, maybe the golf grip is a little bit better, where your thumb goes on top and the rest of your hand goes underneath it. That just didn't feel very comfortable to me. And plus that one often uses the 2-tap technique. And I use a marshmallow looking hard plastic on the end of my cane that it rolls sort of, in that it's round enough to roll. Really depends on the surface I'm using that for this constant contact that I like to have instead of tap tap, that I'm kind of rolling it across and using my arm to both kind of push and lift it at times, because where I live, the concrete pavement sidewalk is quite cracked and has a lot of vertical aspects to it that are, not my favorite, shall we say, but that's a part of the challenge, and I've had to figure out how to deal with that. So the marshmallow for me, just changing the way I lift it up and how I drag it across with just a lot of time and doing it has helped me to understand the muscle memory that I need to be able to use that effectively. But my oldest brother has a preference for the ball, like it's a roller ball with kind of like the bottom of a shopping trolley, shopping cart, I guess, but maybe the wheel's not so big exactly. And that's great for constant contact with the ground. But where I see it being a problem is on uneven ground. And again, my area is nothing but uneven for some reason. But if I were in a store, like with hardwood floors, linoleum, anything that's just flat, the one that rolls on its own would be even better. But I have to pick one that's kind of a jack of all trades. There's others with a fine tip to them, and I see that wouldn't work for me because it would also get stuck in various cracks and things that could make me stop dead in the street or anywhere else, because once I hit like total resistance, I stop, because I'm not, I don't have the next bit of information in front of me to let me know what's coming up. So I want to have fewer of those moments if I can. Lastly, I want to say it's still a work in progress. 7 years on, I'm very comfortable with it. I really like the longer cane that I have now. It folds down into 5 pieces and it goes up to my shoulder. And even when I switched to that one, there was still a bit of an adjustment, because now that I've got more reach, it means that my sense of depth for where an edge might be, or an object like a trash can or something that's on the sidewalk, is now a little bit further than I realized. So I was still having to understand how things are spatially, updating my spatial awareness to what my cane is feeling and how it's transmitting to me. And there's aspects that I'm still working on, like downtown, all of the crosswalks are automatic. There is no button to hit. It doesn't talk at all. And that requires a lot of observation for how you're hearing the traffic flow and which lanes are going to get priority first, and knowing when it's your turn to go. Those bits are very scary at first. And I'm only now getting used to them. So like 7 years on, there's a lot left for me to learn. Speaking of crosswalks, not all of them talk. When you hold the button down for 5 seconds and it tells you like what direction this signal is taking you, there are a few from the 80s that have like a round metal button to them, and they don't talk at all. And they're in some critical spots that I have to either avoid or use those same skills I was talking about with the automatic ones. some other button systems that say different things just to make it more confusing. The first round of them just will make a noise that says when to cross, and then the newer generation that they're putting in will say like the light has turned green or something. And it always takes me aback at first until I've fully internalized where each of those different models exists exactly and how to go about them. And indeed, there's even one other button around here where all it does is just beep when you press it, and that's it. So it's somewhere in between the ones that were built in the 80s and in the last 10, 15 years, just to add more confusion and more things that you have to go out there and learn. That's about all I wanted to share about this. It's empowering. I feel confident, at least more confident than I was, scrounging back some of my autonomy. It's the one thing with vision loss that you lose. You feel dependent, often feel dependent on other people. And for myself, I wanted to have as much control over my own life and when I want to go to places, how I want to go to places, and not always waiting for someone to have to drive me there or to assist me with their shoulder or arm in arm. Although those are great, and I've had wonderful friends over the years who were willing to help me in that well before I ever used a cane. And I'm forever thankful for that. You know, telling me when a curb's coming up and where the signposts are and dodge for this tree branch and that. But I know for me, I get the most out of going out there on my own terms and accomplishing those things without anybody else's help. And that is exactly what the white cane has done for me. Trust me when I say that gaining whatever level of autonomy I have now was not easy, and it will never be easy. I had another legally blind person at Oregon Commission for the Blind named Shar normalize this for me in a conversation just a few weeks ago, and I found it very meaningful just to have somebody level with me and say, everything about our life is difficult. I can't even really think of any tasks where I can mindlessly just go and do them. Even checking the mail is an ordeal of like orienting myself, preparing myself. It is mentally exhausting to do just about everything. And it was just nice to hear someone level with me in that regard, that like, this is hard mode. And not just for people with vision loss, anyone who has a disability, a learning disability, a physical disability, senses, whatever it is, if that we can find workarounds. There's all kinds of utilities and tools and resources we can use, but just the act of having to do it is draining. And nothing about it has ever come easy to me. As proficient as I feel I am, at least in my area here, for walking around, like I have to prepare for it in all respects, knowing how the weather might change, the sun's going to be out at some point. I got to keep my sunglasses on, having my cane. What am I going to do if my cane breaks or I drop it and I can't find it? I got to keep my phone on me, and I've got other bits of technology that can help me out in a bind. And that was extremely useful to hear from her. I'm holding on to that and passing it on to you. Hopefully someone out there finds this video interesting or helpful, whatever it is. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you write them in the comments below, and give a like and subscribe. I'm thinking about some other blind lifestyle videos, or at least my own lived-in experience that I can share. And if you'd like to see more of that, let me know. Also, I just need to get more views and videos uploaded and hours watched, because I can't monetize any of these videos. I do stream over on Twitch occasionally, but the kind of stuff that I did over there was a lot of watching of videos. And well, honestly, that's getting to be also really difficult. Just being able to see what's on the screen and react to it. And so I'm having to think of, well, what other things can I bring to the table? What kind of content can I make? So I'm going to try with this one and see where it goes. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun making it, and we'll see what happens next.